Classic 6. I'm trying to finish up my thoughts on this Ranger and get the design finalized and get the frame released. So the idea behind the Ranger was to go slightly bigger, go to a 3.5-inch prop, so that we have a little bit more speed, can tolerate a little bit more weight, so we can carry GPS and things like that, and get out there a little bit further, yet still have a quad that's super fun to fly, super agile, and fun to fly. And I think in a lot of ways this build really hits a lot of those points. So things that I'm seeing with this quad, it cruises pretty comfortably. So the way I have it built up here, I've got it at 102 grams dry weight, and then I fly it on these Tattoo R-Line 550s charged to high volt. This is a 4S pack, and it comes in just about 60 grams. And for the GPS, I have been adding a separate 1S battery, and this is totally overkill. This is a 300 milliamp battery, and I think the GPS only needs like, I don't know, probably like 50 milliamps or something like that. So this is 8 grams, which is clearly like more than needed. But I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But in general, what I've been seeing out of this quad is that it can cruise around 30 miles per hour or so pretty comfortably, and top speed that I'm seeing, so yesterday I did a little speed check, got up to a little over 135 kilometers an hour, which is about 80-ish miles per hour, a little over 80 miles per hour, which I think pretty decent. And on these 550 batteries, if you cruise, getting easily like 7.5 minutes out to 8 minutes, which means that this quad has the capability of flying, you know, like probably 2 kilometers back and forth pretty safely. The thing that I'm struggling a little bit with, though, is the HD0 camera system for not so much the range issue. So people kind of been noticing that maybe my range is a little shorter, and that could be true for a couple of reasons. One, I find out after the fact we're supposed to be flying long range on R1, and I've been on R8. So R8 gets you up above the local, like the Wi-Fi high spots and stuff like that, but apparently R1 has better power. So I've probably been cutting myself short a little bit that way. But the real issue, I think, with the HD0 is that this Nano 90 camera does 720p, doesn't do 1080, and what I'm finding is that when I'm trying to cruise at like, you know, 25-30 miles an hour, if I'm coming down low, I don't quite have the resolution to where I can fly at that speed and be confident I'm not going to clip like ghost branches and things like that, which is super important if you're flying kind of out pretty far, if you're a mile from yourself, because if you clip something and crash, that's going to be quite a recovery adventure. So, and I didn't, specifically on this build, I didn't build this to be an HD0 quad, to be clear. It's just I have HD0, and so I'm seeing what I can do with it. And I've always kind of viewed this as probably you're going to want to do walk snail on it as well, or have that as an option. And I'm trying to show you, yes, right there, the second little screw hole. You can probably see that mounting. That's intended for the walk snail camera, so that you have that other option. And I think for this type of a quad, the walk snail is probably going to be the better solution for going out and kind of cruising and sort of enjoying the scenery. Whereas I think the HD0 Nano 90 comes up just a little bit short on that. And when you're out far, you're kind of pushing the range, so you're not flying. To me, where this camera really shines is flying it at that 90 frames per second. That's really, like, I think the big standout feature. And for proximity flying, I think nothing beats that, you know, that 90 frames per second. It's just amazing. And so this isn't like a knock on HD0 at all. It's just the right tool for the job. And I think the job that this quad is trying to do, I don't think that that camera is the right tool, because the last thing I want to do is give up even more resolution to get that latency. And plus, when you're that far out, if you're like, you know, 500 meters, 700 meters, 1,000 meters out, I don't think you're going to be pushing it to where the proximity stuff to where you're going to be feeling comfortable, flying it the way that you need that 90 frames per second. So, with that said, I don't think that this is going to be a DJI build, because then you got to go up to bigger cameras and you got to throw in a heavier VTX. You can't go with like one of the lightweight VTXs, and that's just going to start pushing up the weight quite a bit. And I think one of the secrets that this quad does, the reason it can cruise fast and fly for 7.5, 8 minutes, is because the weight is pretty reasonable. As soon as you start adding weight, that flight time is definitely going to come down, and then you sort of start working against yourself. It's like, why are you going to decrease your flight time to go further, and then you can't go further because then your battery life doesn't get you further. So, yeah. So, things I'm really happy about this frame. I really like the aesthetic of this, the design or the philosophy of this quick release canopy, even though it's probably not that practical. On a longer range build, you're probably not going to be crashing a lot, not a lot. You're not going to be crashing a lot, so you're probably not going to be popping the canopy on and off. But with that said, it's quick release. You loosen 2 screws and you can pop it off. And I even solved my how do you make quick release antenna mounts, and the idea, the inspiration was like, well, go back to your zip tie canopy, stupid. And so these are kind of funny. These are little zip ties on. And so what you can do is, this is just shrink tubing that I haven't shrunk on. You just bend it forward and it'll slide right off. And that will let you quick release the antennas, yet still give you pretty sturdy mounting in the back, so that you can get the canopy off. Question I have for people is, so I do have the GPS mounted on the arm, because I think that's going to be pretty much the furthest you can get away from your VTX antenna and your board. I did initially have the idea that I was going to stick this GPS up on top of the cage up here, because this Get Bar C, it happens to be like the exact perfect width to slot in and sit. So basically that little spot underneath is exactly like 14 millimeters. So it sits so nicely that it's like designed for it. It's like you just want it to be there. But obviously if you look at that, that's going to bring it closer to the board, bring it closer to the antennas and stuff. And so I do have, like, one of the questions I have is, of people who are interested in this frame, would you still think about mounting your GPS up here? And if so, would you want a little flat spot up here, because you could move it even a little bit further forward. Let's see if I can show you that. So you could stick it basically about up here and get it a little bit further forward. If I put just a little bit of a, not showing you that very well, but we could stick it right there if I put a little flat spot on there. I think that might compromise the aesthetics just a touch, maybe not too bad, but is that something that people are interested in? Do you want that other option for mounting the GPS? Other questions I have for people are, if you're flying walk snail, who's using the Goggles X? I just keep reading about it. Just seems like there's so many problems with the Goggles X, because I am basically planning on buying a walk snail setup, because I think that's what this quad needs for me to truly love it. I love the way it flies. I want a prettier picture though, I think. Now I might totally change my mind. I'll probably go fly some proximity and dive some gaps, and I'll be like, no, HC0 is exactly what I want, but who knows. One other feature request kind of thing. Do you want any other options on the bottom of the frame? Like, would it make sense to extend this backwards to mount something back there? I don't. I feel like there's plenty of room, so my beeper's just tucked in there. Plenty of room there. There's also a bunch of room underneath the camera here. to tuck some things in there, but it'd be pretty easy to extend the frame out this way in the front coming out, or extend it out the back for a little bit more mounting options. The other one is thinking about mounting this antenna here. I just have it taped to the bottom, and it works, but you're always pressing on it, so when you're landing and stuff. One of the thoughts I had is if you extend the arm out a little bit and have a little slot so that the wire can feed in from this side, and then the antenna would sit up just above the frame but still go out horizontally this way. The other thing too is you could consider, to get the GPS even further out on the frame, is extending the feet out, basically putting a little platform out here to mount the GPS on, out past the motor. And so then GPS out past the motor, dive the wires underneath, run them along the bottom, and then back into there. That would pick up an extra good little bit of distance from everything. I haven't needed to really adjust things. I didn't have as good satellites. I was getting yesterday kind of 9 to 14 rather than the 14 to like 20 I was getting, but running the external 1S. But looking at how much this battery weighs, I am kind of curious about getting a different board. It might just make sense to buy a better board that has I shouldn't say better board, but a more robust board that does have 3-volt rail. So these TuneRC boards are great because they're super light and there's like no fat on them, essentially. There's no excess stuff. But I think for this build, if we're adding an 8-gram battery, why not just bump up to something with a little bit more feature rich, and that has a 3-volt rail, has slightly more headroom on the ESCs, and then maybe just get rid of the battery. I do really like the external battery because when I go out to fly this quad, basically what I do is I connect the battery, let it sit, and it gets the GPS satellites, locks them. Then I set up the rest of my stuff, and by the time I have everything set up, I've got plenty of satellites to go fly. I don't know. What other thoughts do I have? Other thoughts? Yeah, the GPS rescue. That's one of the things that makes me nervous a little bit about going to walk snail. So one of the things I really do, like people complain about the sparkles or the glitter or the fuzz in HD0. I actually really like that because it tells me, it kind of gives me an ongoing readout of what my signal health is in terms of my video quality. Because then when the screen just goes full fuzz, you know you're gone. And it gives you like a quick visual, oh shoot, go hit your GPS rescue, bail yourself out. I really worry about some of the other systems that just kind of slow down your frame rate and even just lock up. And then I don't know if your brain processes that as quickly to be able to get yourself out of trouble, hit that GPS rescue switch. So yeah, if you have thoughts on that, let me know. But yeah, if you do fly walk snail, let me know what system you're flying. Are you flying the Whoop Light or their equivalent of the Whoop Light, or are you flying the bigger, heavier VTX? I mean, the camera, I think obviously has to be the smaller camera to fit in this size. I don't know. Thoughts, questions, concerns? I don't know what else to show. All right, yeah, hit the comments, get some feedback, some discussion going. I do want to finish this frame up. So 2 big questions. 1, do you want a flat top on the top for mounting GPS? Do you want arms extended out with mounting options for GPS and or antenna? Should we extend out the back or the front of the bottom plate of the frame for extra mounting? And then tell me your thoughts on walk snail versus HD0. Until next time, cheers.